Is this a setting of the tone from the Friedkin group? That is one thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about the next manager, who that could be when it comes to the odds. We'll have a look at that. We're going to break it down into why Everton have got rid of Sean Dyche and why, in my opinion, it is the right decision. I think there is a case here of like horses for courses, because I think sometimes, do you know what this is like? I've spoken to a few Everton fans, and Kai, my producer, is an Everton fan as well, so have to listen to him moan about Everton a lot. And when you've got no food, you are starving, and someone goes, "Here's some rice and broccoli. It's healthy, it's good for you, and it's going to keep you going, and it's going to keep you alive and allow you to survive." That's what I don't want to be disrespectful to Sean Dyche, because I think he has done enough, right, to to be in the job up until this point. But I think context is everything, and this is a season where you just can't go down. And so when you're talking about who you bring in, this is the next thing that's so dangerous when it comes to Everton, because what is dangerous here when you look at the league here is that that bottom three, really, Palace should have been doing better than they have this season, as should have Everton. And if they go down this year, when it's Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton, I think Leicester and Southampton are very poor. Ipswich are sort of trying their best. They've given themselves a fighting chance, and they're spending money in the right ways, and they've got an exciting manager. So they're giving themselves a chance, and it's getting a little bit too close here. Like when you look at the two squads of the Everton squad and the Ipswich squad, you're starting to and ah. And it is a season where you probably can either give it a go in terms of sort of pulling the plug, in terms of changing that manager and going away from the broccoli and rice diet and adding some, a bit of salt in there, a bit of soy sauce with that rice. Have we got some belly pork, what's something just a bit fattier? I think that's the big thing, because look at this, right? So this is the open play goals, not set piece goals from this season. 7 goals from open play this entire season. Last season, 19 goals in 38 games that wasn't from a set piece. That is grim. And although it's a sign of the times to a point, but again, it's a sign of the times for Everton that, like, they are sort of teetering between okay, we are in huge trouble here. Lampard's not getting a tune out of it. Let's bring in Sean Dyche and secure the health of this team. But living on broccoli and rice is not living. Okay? And that's where they're at now. And the concern would be that this is a cutthroat new ownership, and they're making a change at the wrong time. I think they're making it at the wrong time in terms of doing it today, 3 hours before a game. But I'm sure it's not just gone, all right, we've decided now, and off he's gone. I think he's been a bit of a dead man walking for some time. So I think you can let that go on this occasion. What I would say is this: if that ruthlessness, if that becomes a pattern, then you'd be slightly concerned. But again, I come back to it, and I'm like, I think you have to move it forward. Another thing that's really important here is the January transfer window in a couple of different ways. One, in terms of if you want to be able to be appetizing and bring in any players, do they want to come into this? But also in terms of being able to sell any players. If you want to be able to sell any of these guys, then to sell them, you kind of need to play more attractive football. It's kind of like that Vincent Kompany situation, but with the team itself. Because when you play that way, and like QPR under Gareth Ainsworth, it was a similar thing where you're not going to attract players. You're not going to attract good loan players as well. I mean, obviously QPR is different to Everton. But also, you're not going to be able to sell anyone, because being a good asset is someone who's like good on the ball and can pass it and do all those things. And the way they move forward, their attacking style of play, there were very few ideas at this point. And I think the over-reliance on Jordan Pickford to make saves as well was something that was trending absolutely in the wrong direction. And I think the Bournemouth game in particular was one where it was the final straw, really, because when you look at Bournemouth, there's no reason why Everton can't be Bournemouth. Now, the important thing to say here is Everton have not been able to spend money at all. So again, I think Sean Dyche goes, and it's one where, look, we need to kind of roll the Dyche here. Oh! My great touch for a big lad. Listeners from back in the day will remember that one. That was a bit... Anyway, you need to roll the dice because you might as well, because I think those three down the bottom could and should and maybe will be the three down the bottom come the end. Ipswich aside. But two are definitely gone, in my opinion. So it's worth kind of giving it that go, just to see if you can get something more out of this group. But also, like, there is more in this group from an attacking point of view. Ndiaye is a really good player. Others, you know, but again, this is why I'm scrabbling about when I'm thinking of Everton right now in terms of those players that can do something. Obviously, Dwight McNeil, we know, can be exciting as a player at times. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, like, even in a system that totally works for Everton, or sorry, should work for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's totally lost his way. The attacking endeavour of the team is just not there at all, and how you lose or how you win does matter. You know, that's 2025, baby. That's where we are. And I think Everton fans are completely within their rights to go, you know, just surviving like this is not living. And that's what I mean. It's a catch-22. So when we then look at the new manager odds, the thing we need to chuck in here is overcorrection. And we speak about this a lot on the channel, and this idea that, you know, because I've been living on broccoli and rice, how do we live a better life? Well, let's just eat pizza. Now, that's not healthy either, okay? And with this squad, I think you've got to be very clever with the person that you bring in. Mourinho's odds were absolutely slashed, but then it's come out that categorically he will not be the next manager, although I would love to see it. And what is quite interesting with that idea is the fact that, you know, in terms of changing it, you know, sometimes Mourinho ball ain't great either, to be honest. But maybe it's one where, like, how far... That's my big question for Everton fans. How far do you want to go from Dyche, from Lampard prior to that? Because they kind of swung from one way to the other. And even Frank Lampard, to be fair to him, was trying to be that little bit more conservative to kind of keep them up and keep them going. So you've got Jose Mourinho that looks like, despite the odds being the way they are, apparently he's not going to be the guy. See, the overcorrection here is Lee Carsley. Can Lee Carsley overcorrect with that group? Like, how can the football wholeheartedly change and bring results under someone like Lee Carsley? Who knows? But what I would say with someone like Lee Carsley has a connection to the club, but also I think would have some great contacts to bring in some really exciting young players, be that on loan or however you want to do it. And those players would be excited to work with someone like Lee Carsley. And that could lead to Everton. Because I think if you're an Everton fan, you're thinking about new stadium, the revenue that comes from that stadium, the fact that this FFP nightmare is very close to the end now. So the future is kind of bright. And with that, you want a more vibrant manager and you want to see better football. You want to see Bournemouth football. You want to see Iraola ball. You want to see Brighton ball. All the balls. You want to see them all. But you want more quality there, right? I think it's interesting, like the Thomas Frank shout. The Thomas Frank shout, absolutely, if you can get him. Would he want to leave Brentford to step into that? Maybe. And I think in terms of how it's one of those ones where when you leave Brentford as a manager, you are then not in the same sort of loving, footballing, smart cocoon that is Brentford. So you're then stepping into a new world and you're going to have to sort of like, you know, ride your bike without the stabilisers on. So Thomas Frank would have to step into that and go from having really good people above him to having people that can be a bit ruthless and a bit crazy. But in terms of that squad, getting the best out of that squad, winning the XG battle, but also playing that little bit of football, that is something Thomas Frank has been able to slowly develop and and bring in at Brentford, but with fantastic recruitment. Can they get the recruitment right in time? And is it just one where, again, you get to the end of the season, Everton aren't going to get into Europe or anything like that. So it's just about staying up and seeing football that's maybe that little bit better at this stage, I would say. So absolutely go and get Thomas Frank if you can. I think Thomas Frank would be quite excited by the idea of going there and being in the new stadium and having that little bit more money to spend once, now that FFP is changing and you've got a new ownership group. I think he would be wary of how much time would he get. If you can get Thomas Frank, get him. I would absolutely say that. David Moyes, there's nothing wrong with going and get David Moyes. It's a gentle step in the right direction. Is it a long-term step in the right direction? Is it a safe step forwards with a new stadium coming? Yeah. So I don't think that's the end of the world either. And like I've said on a few videos now, we've had the Wolves manager go, we've had the Southampton manager go as well. You will stay up if you have David Moyes in your team. So if that is the be-all and end-all, it's one of those ones like, what's it about here? Is it about the next year and a step forward and slightly better football that you can be a bit more excited about? Or are you taking a bigger leap? There's dangers in those bigger leaps, I would say. When you're seeing like Allegri, Ten Hag, Heitingham gone to Liverpool now. Surely not. Lee Carsley, I don't totally hate it. Terzic, if you can get it, wow. I mean, I think that'd be good. But again, he's stepping into a new league, so there's dangers there. Steve Cooper, kind of safe pair of hands, but again, the football can be. He's kind of lost his way as a Premier League manager in terms of being having that bit of a offensive fun in him, and I think that's what Everton fans want. They just want to I get it. Like Everton fans, you won't like me saying this, but you do just want to be able to live a little. You really, really do. And I get it, and to have a bit of excitement there, and that is why he had to go for the lack of open play goals and crucially January. What do you want to do this January? Give the other manager that opportunity to maybe have at least a voice in that conversation in terms of the players that you're going to bring in. There's worth in doing that, but doing it a few hours before a game is pretty ruthless. Let me know how you're feeling about this one, Everton fans. You know more than me about your club. Am I right? Am I wrong? Let me know.